Hello, I'm Nanny Joy, and today I'm going to read the story of Dick Whittington and his cat. Now, I'm going to need your help again because there are two characters in the story who are not very nice. So when they come into the story, I wondered if you can go boo, just to let them know that we don't like them. Their names are the two henchmen. So let's have a practice. I can see the henchman coming. Did you boo? Did I hear you boo? Shall we have another go? Look, over there, there's the henchman. Gosh, that was better. That was a very big boo. Well done. And the other thing I want you to look out for and to help me is the cat. So every time we hear the cat, I want you to go meow. Can you do that? Let's see. I can see a cat over in the garden. Wasn't a very big meow, was it? Shall we try again? Oh, look, there's a cat. Meow. Well done. Right, shall we get on with the story? So don't forget, if you hear the cat, it's meow. And if you hear the henchman, it's boo, because we don't like them. Right, let's get on with the story. All about Dick Whittington. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a young man called Dick Whittington. He lived happily in the countryside, but longed for the busy streets and excitement of London. He had heard that the streets of London were paved with gold, and he wanted to be rich. So, one day, he got some bread and fruit, tied them up in a napkin, and set off on his journey to London. He hadn't gone very far when he saw a black and white cat sitting alone by the roadside. The cat looked very hungry, so Dick sat down with the cat and shared his bread with him. Dick chattered away to the cat, telling him all about his adventure to London. The cat jumped up in his lap as if to say, "Can I come too?" Dick stroked the cat and decided that if they were going to travel together, the cat needed a name. He thought for a moment, Tommy. I'm going to call you Tommy. The cat nestled into Dick's arms, and he really liked his new name. So the two friends set off along the road to find their fortune. It took them a whole day to walk to London, and when they arrived, they were so tired that they found the nearest doorstep, sat down and fell fast asleep. The next morning, Dick and Tommy woke up very suddenly as two horrible-looking men were shouting at them to get up from the doorstep as it was private property. Dick and Tommy jumped up very quickly. "We're very sorry," said Dick to the two men. The two horrible men were just about to push Dick and Tommy across the road when a voice said, "Stop, leave them alone." Dick looked up to see a beautiful young girl running towards them. "Get back to work," the girl shouted to the two men. "I'm so sorry," said the girl to Dick. "Those men work for my father, and I suppose they were just looking after our house." "Oh, I see," said Dick. "Thank you very much. My name is Dick, by the way, and this is my friend, Tommy the cat." "Pleased to meet you," said the girl. "My name is Alice. Don't take any notice of Daddy's two henchmen. They don't mean any harm." At that moment, a very smart old gentleman came walking up the road, calling, "Alice, Alice." "Over here, Daddy." "Ah, there you are, my dear. Now, have you seen Cook? She was supposed to be buying my lunch from the market, but I can't find her anywhere." Just then, a very jolly lady came round the corner and nearly bumped into Dick. "I do beg your pardon," said the lady. "Ah, there you are, Mr. Fitzwarren," she said. "My kitchen boy ran away this morning, and I really don't think I can manage your big kitchen all on my own." "Oh dear," said Mr. Fitzwarren. "Now, wherever are we going to find another kitchen helper around here?" Alice spoke up. My new friend Dick needs a job, and his cat is an excellent rat catcher. Wonderful. That's settled then, said Mr. Fitzwarren. You can start today. Dick was looking very puzzled and not sure what had just happened. He had come to London to look for the streets paved with gold and to seek his fortune. Did he really want to work in the kitchen of a big house? You can call me Cook, said the jolly lady to Dick. Very happy to meet you. Now follow me and bring the cat. Dick decided that if he and Tommy worked in the big house, they would have food and somewhere to sleep. So that is what they did. The weeks passed, and Cook was very pleased with Dick's work, and Tommy turned out to be the best rat catcher they had ever had. One day, Mr. Fitzwarren went into the kitchen to make an announcement. I am sailing to a foreign land tomorrow to buy some special food supplies and trade with the local people. Would anyone like to come for an adventure? Dick couldn't resist an adventure and said that if Cook could spare him and Tommy, they would very much like to go. Excellent, said Mr. Fitzwarren. We sail at dawn. Don't be late. Very early the next day, Dick and Tommy boarded the big ship. They were filled with excitement. They said good morning to Mr. Fitzwarren, but were a bit frightened to see that Mr. Fitzwarren had brought his 2 henchmen with him. We need to stay out of their way, said Dick to Tommy. Alice and Cook stood on the quayside to wave goodbye. Dick had become very fond of Alice and was sad to leave her for such a long, long time. Cast off, shouted Mr. Fitzwarren, and the ship started to move very slowly out to sea. Alice and Cook waved and waved until the ship was out of sight, and Dick waved back. It was a very long journey, and Dick started to wonder if they would ever get to the foreign land. Mr. Fitzwarren stood up on deck looking through a long telescope. The henchmen were in charge of the sails. Dick scrubbed the decks, and Tommy became the ship's rat-catcher. Suddenly, Mr. Fitzwarren shouted, "Land ahoy!" And far away in the distance, Dick could see some mountains and trees. "We're here," Dick called to Tommy. But where was here? No one knew where they were, but they decided to drop anchor and go ashore. Mr. Fitzwarren was first to step on dry land, and his legs were a bit wobbly because he'd been on the ship for such a long time. The henchmen followed, also wobbling about, and then Dick and Tommy. They trudged up the beach, over some big stones, and into a forest. They walked through bushes covered in large pink flowers and past the biggest trees Dick had ever seen. Finally, they reached a clearing in the forest, and in the distance Dick saw a huge building. "Look," he said, "a castle. Shall we see who lives there?" Dick and Tommy led the way and eventually came to a massive wooden door with a very big bell hanging beside it. Without thinking, Dick reached up and rung the bell. The henchmen stood back, and Dick realised that they really weren't very brave after all. Mr. Fitzwarren stood next to Dick, and Tommy jumped up into Dick's arms. They heard footsteps, click, 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 and then, very slowly, the door started to creak open. Dick's heart started to beat very fast, and his knees were shaking. But he wasn't going to show the henchmen that he was scared. The door was open wide now to reveal the biggest hallway ever, and in the doorway stood 2 men who bowed to Dick and the others. "Enter," they said together in a very deep, scary voice. The group of travellers went inside, and the big door slammed behind them. Bang! "We will take you to see the Sultana," said the men. "Follow us." So off they all crept into the huge palace. Everything was gold, with glistening diamonds everywhere. It really was the most magnificent place Dick had ever seen, even in his dreams. They entered another huge room where they could see a lady dressed in a beautiful gown, seated in a large golden throne. "Good morning, strangers," she said. "Come closer so I can see you properly." Mr. Fitzwarren, Dick and Tommy moved forward into the light, but the henchmen were so scared their feet stayed put. "I am the Sultana," she said, "and we are a very sad people." Dick couldn't believe what he was hearing. How could anyone be sad if they lived in a wonderful palace with everything they needed? The Sultana continued. "My land is overrun with rats," she said, "and my one and only enemy is King Rat. If we could slay King Rat, then my people could all live happily ever after instead of being frightened every moment of the day. I will give half of my kingdom in gold to anyone who can kill King Rat and leave us in peace." Dick's eyes lit up when he heard this and wondered if Tommy might be up for the job. Everyone says that Tommy is an excellent rat catcher, Dick thought to himself. My cat Tommy will attack and kill King Rat for you," shouted Dick. "That would be awesome," said the Sultana. "But first, we will have a big feast in your honour." The Sultana clapped her hands very loudly twice, and her people came in from every door carrying luscious food and drinks for everybody. Tommy didn't eat very much because his tummy had butterflies and he was very nervous about meeting King Rat, let alone fighting him to the death. The next day, Tommy woke up very early and looked out of the window. He could not believe his eyes. There, in the palace gardens, was the largest rat he had ever seen. It was, of course, King Rat. King Rat stood up on his back legs and let out an enormous roar. Tommy shot back into bed and hid under the covers, shaking. "Out you come, Tommy, old friend," said Dick. "You can do it." Tommy thought for a moment. He had to come up with a plan. He realised that he could run faster than the rat. So he devised a plan that involved running. Without warning, Tommy shot out of bed, ran out of the door, flew down the stairs and out into the palace gardens. There he came face to face with King Rat. Tommy waved at King Rat and stuck his tongue out at King Rat. And having got his attention, the brave cat mustered all his energy. He ran as fast as he could, through the gardens, over the wall, through the forest, along the beach, and finally he ran up to the top of a cliff edge. Every now and again Tommy peeped over his shoulder to make sure King Rat was following him. He was, and getting closer and closer. Tommy scrambled up high on the cliff edge and waited for King Rat to catch him. Tommy turned around to face King Rat and held his nerve. King Rat came bounding and roaring over to Tommy and took a giant leap to attack the terrified cat. At that moment, Tommy jumped to one side and watched as King Rat soared into the air, over the cliff edge and down the cliff until he reached the rocks below with an almighty thud. Tommy peered over the top of the cliff to check that the deed was done. King Rat was quite dead. The Sultana and her people clapped and cheered as Tommy returned to the palace. Mr. Fitzwarren and Dick stroked and patted Tommy and said what a clever and brave cat he was. Even the henchman said, "Well done." "As promised," said the Sultana, "I now present to you 1/2 of my kingdom in gold." The band of travellers could not believe it. Mr. Fitzwarren announced that as Tommy had done all the work, he and Dick should have the gold. Dick shook Mr. Fitzwarren warmly by the hand and gave Tommy the best cuddle in the world. The henchmen, Mr. Fitzwarren, Dick and Tommy sang all the way to their ship, and as they set off, the Sultana and all her people waved and cheered from the beach. A few days later, Dick and Tommy found themselves back in London. Dick couldn't wait to see Alice. Many, many months later, Dick and Tommy were working hard for the people of London, ridding the streets from rats and making everyone safe. The people of London were so happy with Dick that they asked him to be Lord Mayor of London. Dick was so pleased, and he felt brave enough to ask Alice to marry him. So, Alice and Dick got married in the big church on the hill in London. Tommy was best man, the cook was maid of honour, Mr. Fitzwarren cried tears of happiness, and even the henchman managed to smile. And guess what? They all lived happily ever after. Did you enjoy the story of Dick Whittington? He was a real person, and many, many years ago, he really, really was the Lord Mayor of London. Have a nice day. Bye.